So welcome everyone. I'm here today with Franklin Ogbunweze, who is Christian Solidarity International's Senior Research Fellow for Africa. And today we're going to discuss something horrible that happened 6 days ago now, the lynching of a young Nigerian Christian university student named Deborah Yakubu. And I want to invite everyone watching. It's a terrible story. It's an important story. If you have questions about this, if something in our conversation today sparks a question in your mind, please make a comment. Let us know what your question is, and Franklin will do his best to answer it for you. So Franklin, please tell us, who is Deborah Yakubu and what happened on Thursday?
Thank you, Joel, and good day, viewers. It was on Thursday, the 12th of May, around 9 a.m., that a young Christian student that studies at the Shehu Shagari College of Education in Sokoto State. Sokoto is a Nigerian state in the northwestern part of Nigeria. It's among the first states in Nigeria to introduce Sharia law. So this young student, a 22-year-old young girl, called the dad in panic that some people want to kill her. And the father hurried to the school. And first of all, the father called the police and told them what was happening, and then hurried to the school. The police sent 2 policemen initially, and then when they saw that the crowd was gathering, the policemen went back for reinforcements and came back with over 100 security personnel. So, but the people that have arrested the girl, the fellow students, locked her up in a little gate house, the house that is very close to the university gate. And the person that was with the key went away. So the policemen were there, and then as they saw the crowd gathering, braying for her blood, they started shooting sporadically in the air, trying to disperse the crowd with tear gas and all whatnot. But eventually, the person that was with the key, where the young woman was locked in, came out, and immediately they opened the door, the crowd swung in. And then in the melee, somebody hit her with a very heavy iron rod on the head. And immediately she fell on the ground. They started screaming, Allah Akbar. And then a young female student that had boca on her head, immediately she saw that Deborah was already dead in the pool of her own blood, consequent on the injury inflicted on her with a rod, started screaming that they should set her ablaze. So that was what happened, a young Christian student. And then the background to the story, according to our investigations, shows that it started as a discussion in a Facebook, in a WhatsApp group in the school that comprises the students in her course range. She is a second-year student in a college of education. The people that murdered and lynched this young innocent girl were training to become teachers. Can you imagine what they are going to be teaching their students going forward in Nigeria? So that was Deborah, and then they murdered her that morning. And after, in the presence of her father, can one imagine what for a heartbreak that a father experiences watching her kid being lynched to death and he cannot do anything? This is what traumatized me the most. Whenever I remember that, I cannot even hold back my tears, that a father stood there and watched his kid being killed by a mob simply because they accused her of blasphemy. Till date, we have not seen evidence of what she said that was blasphemous. But the crowd never cared. It never mattered. All they needed was that somebody said that she blasphemed against the prophet. And then that was what sent them on the mission to lynch a young Nigerian that is full of hope for tomorrow. So this is that was the situation on Thursday, the 12th of May. And then the people that killed her did not only kill her, they recorded themselves on video doing that, committing these crimes. Their faces are to be seen. So two of them were eventually arrested, and then the whole Muslim community in Sokoto and environs went on a rampage, demanding not that they should be prosecuted for committing a murder, but that they should be freed for doing the work of the Prophet. But some Islamic authorities that are friendly with me told me that blasphemy in Islam is not to be punished with death, that it's not even in the Quran, that people are just using it to further their own selfish interest and ignorance of what the Quran says. So this is what we see in northern Nigeria, where we have more fanatics than rational people who, once they, based on a suspicion or a hearsay, they are ready to break the bounds of reason and commit murder and slaughter a young innocent student. So when we have been saying all this while, that northern Nigeria is a place where impunity reigns, especially against Christians and minorities, we have been screaming on the top of our lungs, but nobody seems to be listening to us.
And
people did this.
We can see this environment of impunity, right? And the ideological underpinnings of the project to install Sharia law in states like Sokoto and other states in northern Nigeria. And what was really shocking to me was the murder itself was horrible. And both of us have been really, I think, struggling emotionally with seeing the videos and what's happened. But then the reaction from Nigeria's leadership, right? I have a quote here from Nigeria's president, Muhammad Buhari, who said he called for an impartial, extensive probe into all that happened before and during the incident. He didn't call for anyone to be punished. He didn't promise that there would be justice. He just called for an investigation. It's quite clear what happened, actually. I'm not sure how much of an investigation is needed. And then he said, and quote, "Muslims all over the world demand respect for the holy prophets. And where transgressions occur, the law does not allow anyone to take matters into their hands. The constituted authority must be allowed to deal with such matters when they arise." So in other words, according to Nigeria's president, the problem is not that Deborah was killed. The problem is that she was killed by a mob. It seems that the president would have preferred that she be arrested for the crime of blasphemy and then put to death.
Well, one sees in the tongue-in-cheek declaration of our president that he is walking a tightrope. I can appreciate his position. He doesn't want to anger his Muslim base. He's a Muslim as well. So he doesn't want to anger the base that brought him to office. And we have even accused that president of being a Muslim fanatic. Even there are some intelligence reports that declared the Americans, we saw that in WikiLeaks report, that he's a Muslim fan, an Islamic fanatic. Even the leader of his own party, when asked by the Americans, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, said that Muhammadu Buhari is an Islamic fanatic, that he should not become the president of Nigeria. But all of a sudden, they are now in the same party, and he's our president. So he wouldn't want to roil the base, but that shows you the kind of impunity he has empaneled. Let's leave Yakubu for one moment and think about what is happening in the middle belt of Nigeria. Christians are being slaughtered day in, day out. The president looks on. He doesn't do anything to arrest that problem. Is it only in the middle belt? What about the southern Kaduna, where Christians are being demographically cleansed? That's ethnic and religious cleansing. What is our president doing? The Fulani headsmen, the fourth deadliest terror organization in the world, is on a campaign of terror across Nigeria. We have the bandits who issued from this Fulani headsman. What is he doing? So anyway, some people may argue that he's a lame duck president because he has a few months in office. But for his 8 years in power, Muhammadu Buhari has not lived up to the statutory responsibilities he owes Nigerians to protect their lives and properties. And Christians are bearing the brunt of it all because this impunity empowers Islamic fanatics to murder and slaughter Christians at will. That's the unfortunate thing we are seeing across the length and breadth of Nigeria today.
As long as we're talking about messaging from the top, I've been monitoring the Twitter feeds and the public statements of different officials from the United States. Our ambassador for international religious freedom, our Secretary of State, really anybody. I've been looking for anyone to say anything about this. So far, 6 days out from this murder, total silence. I haven't seen any comments on this, which is really shameful in and of itself, but it's even more shameful when we consider that the US maintains a list of countries of particular concern for religious freedom, and that just 6 months ago, the US took Nigeria off of this list. No explanation, no defending the decision. They just removed it. They just issued a new list, actually, and Nigeria was not on it. How do you make sense of this?
There is no sense to be made of that, my dear Joel. We protested, we kicked, we clawed that Secretary Blinken not remove Nigeria from the list of countries of particular concern in November when he visited Nigeria. But these were the basis. We had a lot of evidence detailing what will happen, that they are empowering impunity if Nigeria is removed, because he went to Abuja and canonized the regime, telling them you could do whatever you want with the Christians and your minorities. It's not our problem, in as much as America's strategic interests in Africa are respected. That is all. And this is the kind of impunity, this is the kind of mistake that the United States makes in several countries. You don't understand the sensibilities of the people, and then you make policies based on a few elitist interests that you think will advance the American interest going forward. But it doesn't respect human rights, it doesn't respect democracy in our country, it doesn't respect religious freedoms of people. Christians are being persecuted day in, day out across northern Nigeria today. Since that happened, since Secretary Blinken and the American government removed Nigeria from the country of particular concern. And we are seeing that all this culminated in the murder of Deborah Samuel that we are seeing today. So Secretary Blinken, everybody believes that if we keep quiet long enough, it will just go away, that we are now focused on Ukraine and all whatnot. But Nigeria is the most strategic country that we have in Africa. This is a country of 200 million people. If there is a civil war or a religious war in Nigeria, it's going to destabilize not only Africa, it's going to destabilize Europe, our nearest neighbors. And these Europeans are Americans' allies. It's going to destabilize our world. We cannot imagine the demographic implications of 200 million people being on the move, being displaced from their countries. And that's what a religious war will lead to, because Christians are being pushed to the wall. They are being extended beyond the limits of their elasticity. And if you are on the ground, if you have ears on the ground like I do, you will see that Nigerian Christians are getting fed up with the whole situation. It does seem the Americans don't care about what happens in Nigeria. What they care is about if Nigeria becomes a new theater for their confrontation with China. But fundamental human rights are pretty important. Religious freedoms are pretty important. If we lose sight of that, we have lost everything that made Western civilization what it is today.
Mm-hmm. And so speaking of this, Franklin, you're from Nigeria, you have lots of contacts in Nigeria, you follow things there very closely. What do you think this moment means for Nigeria? It happened 6 days ago. It's been almost wall-to-wall coverage in the media in Nigeria, as far as I can tell. Do you think this is just another moment that's going to fall by the wayside, or could this be a turning point for Nigeria, for good or for bad?
Well, if you want me to tell you what the situation is right now, I can, but I cannot hazard a guess about what is going to happen in the future. But through my analysis, we may see where it is leading to. Right at this time, it's like a mourning process. Nigerians are in the state of shock. We all are shocked and traumatized because this video went viral. We saw human beings, people who pretend to be human beings, murdering a fellow human being and glorying in that. That is the height of impunity. That trauma is brutal. It traumatizes. For almost a week now, I have not been myself after watching that video. I regretted ever watching that video. I'm just like paralyzed, and a lot of other Nigerians are traumatized at that level. That's what is happening now. And after this shock, we will get into the next stage of the mourning process. But the way I'm saying this, this is not the first time somebody has been lynched in Sokoto or in Kano. We had Gideon Akaluka in 1995, who was beheaded and his head paraded on a pike on the streets of Kano because they said he desecrated the Quran, which nobody has been able to prove till today. Then we had a military man in power, Sani Abacha. He wanted to hunt down every perpetrator, everybody who was involved in that. He wanted to hunt them down. But the Nigerian factor happened. That's the way I will put it. So but the way things are going now, while Abacha was in power, the military was a very stable government. They held everything in check. But today, there are massive arms in the hands of non-state actors. We see that in the north, the bandits are well armed to the teeth. We see that in the south as well. The ESN, IPOB, they are armed. Something is going to give someday if this continues this way, and it will be bloody and ugly. I don't want to imagine that day. So, because the people in the south are mostly Christians, and the time will come when they will no longer take it. And the elite they don't care. All they care is about the resource and the money they make. And our foreign partners don't even care. Ukraine has taken up the global attention. But Nigeria is pretty important. Civilization starts to collapse from the peripheries. Nigeria may be a periphery, but bad things can start there to happen, and it will affect all of us.
Well, thank you so much, Franklin, for sharing your insights and your wisdom into this horrible story. I want to encourage everyone listening, if you're as heartbroken about this story as we are, if you find yourself torn with grief over this young woman who was so terribly killed, please turn your grief into action. Write your representatives, write your members of parliament, write your member of Congress, ask them to put a question to Her Majesty's government about Deborah, ask your congressman to speak on the floor of Congress about Deborah, ask them why, if your governments are spending so much money to promote international religious freedom, none of them have said anything about Deborah. Thank you so much for listening, and God bless you all.
Ninas, where we came from, where we are, or the road to freedom. Today, we speak of Ninas, but know that the struggle for the restoration of our sovereignty did not start today. As a matter of fact, the struggle started almost as soon as the sovereignty of the ethnic nationalities was stolen by the imposition of the 1999 Constitution, which maintained a unitary government. With the end of the military regime and return to democracy, there was great hope that the country would be returned to what the people had voted for, and that existed prior to the military intervention in 1966. The hope of the country was dashed when, instead of a return to a federal governance structure with multiple self-governing and autonomous government with their own constitutions, the government was kept centralized in a federal government that kept all the power, the assets, and resources of the ethnic nationalities. Making things worse, this so-called constitution was not put to a referendum, and so was not made by the people. Deprived the citizens of their right to benefit contained in Chapter 2, made federal character unenforceable, gave the lion's share of the oil and other assets to the far north through a federal account sharing process that was exclusively weighted to favor the far north and make corruption official. Let me take you back over 2 decades of our journey. It all started when the military regime of General Abdul Salami Abubakar imposed a unitary 1999 constitution, which in turn was a wholesale rival of the 1979 constitution that was also known to be a victory charter for the Nigeria-Biafra War of 1967 to 1970. When it was made public a few weeks after inauguration of General Obasanjo as president, the better half of those in the legal profession gathered itself at conference and, without much ado, recognized the flaws, loopholes, and selfish intentions, then concluded that the constitution was not legitimate and would not lead Nigeria to any form of advancement. It was important that the mechanism or vehicle to set up a countrywide rejection of this forgery of a constitution was put in place. The journey commenced when, in 2004, the Pro-National Conference Organization, PRONACO, was established to revoke the damaged federal constitutional basis of Nigeria. PRONACO being the People's Sovereign National Conference of Ethnic Nationalities in Nigeria, convened in all ethnic nationalities, and quickly mandated its representation to go back to their people and to come up with ratified draft of how they would want to participate in the Union of Nigeria. The conference sat in plenaries across the cities of Lagos, Port Harcourt, Enugu, Jos, and Kano, then returned to Lagos for the final sitting, and in participation, conveners in the likes of Anthony Ehanoro, Wole Soyinka, Chukwu Emeka Odumego Ojukwu, and similar leaders across the territories. This resolution was an agreement derived from the composite People's Constitution as presented and defended by ethnic nationalities representation in those sequential conferences. And it is important to know that there were observers from the international community, including the US and European Union observers. In August 2006, a delegate from Castina moved the motion for adoption of the draft People's Constitution that emerged from the 29-point resolution of the conference. In furtherance of the PRONACO consensus to restore the federal basis of the Nigerian Union, in 2007, the Movement for a New Nigeria was set up as an enforcement of the consensus at the time to exclude the 12 contiguous northern states that had introduced and embraced the Sharia legal system against the secular basis for Nigeria. The Allies had insisted that democracy and Sharia system could not coexist in the same political space, hence the need for a new vehicle, the Movement for New Nigeria. On the 23rd of May 2007, MMN, through its legal counsel, filed a suit at the Federal High Court Abuja to challenge the legitimacy of the imposed 1999 Constitution, seeking the termination of the entire Constitution. At the court hearings, which had the Attorney General of the Federation representing the federal government, legal representation of the National Assembly, and others, admitted the people case which they could not defend the challenge, but insisted that the plaintiff had no locus standi. In English, the plaintiff had no status at law to bring in the case to challenge the legitimacy of the 1999 Constitution. Having acknowledged that the restoration of the people's sovereignty did not need the participation or permission of government, the Joint Multi-Regional Vehicle instituted the MMN Lagos Declaration 30th of June 2011, by which the Allies partner blocks, the Lower Niger, South-South, and Southeast, the Yoruba Land, and the Middle Belt publicly rejected the Caliphate-imposed 1999 Constitution, mandating regional self-determination actions which included referendum and international outrage. In furtherance to the mandate of the MMN Lagos Declaration, the people of the Lower Niger on the 27th of April 2015 held the Solemn Assembly in Port Harcourt City to wholly repudiate the 1999 Constitution. In that assembly, the 1,885 ethno-linguistic map of the Lower Niger was adopted as a geographical basis of federating. The assembly mandated the distillation of character of relationship as well as asset protection and guarantee scheme to protect the asset of the indigenous people in other blocks of Nigeria. On the mandate for international outrage of the MNN Lagos Declaration, an LNCT visited Capitol Hills, Washington, to make a case for the termination of the operation of Nigeria's 1999 Constitution at the special congressional event on Nigeria in May 2015. The team also made informal consultation for the same matter at the UN headquarters in New York in the same year. 2 years later, still in furtherance to mandate of the MNN Lagos Declaration, the Yoruba indigenous people held the Yoruba Solemn Assembly at Ibadan on the 7th of September 2017. The Assembly publicly repudiated the 1999 Constitution as the basis of the Federation of Nigeria and proclaimed the self-determination right of the Yoruba land to reclaim autonomy of Yoruba land.